Hey guys, this is Breaker, and I am back with game number 3 between Invictus Gaming's Jim and Invictus Gaming's Xiangyao, aka XY, better known to you all as XY. He did, of course, have, a strongish run in the WCS NA Challenger League. But, of course, as always, please hit the subscribe button. Let's go ahead and get this onto the right. Scene for excellent. Upper right-hand corner, Invictus Gaming's XY. Lower left-hand corner, Invictus Gaming's Jim. Now, I do want to go ahead and say this much. I mean, it kind of bothered me and a few other people that the MLG casters, when they were in charge of WCSNA Premier League and Challenger League, it did kind of bother me that they confused XY with iG.Xy. iG.Xy, known as Watermelon Zerg, if you will. He's been quite the veteran, if you will. Been around since the Brood War days, and he just never kind of fell out with Starcraft 2. He just kept it up with the real-time strategy stuff. I'm not sure if he was ever pro for Warcraft 3, but I do know that Jim was an avid Warcraft 3 player at one point in time. According to, I believe it was Edison who did the interviews, or excuse me, not the interview, but the translation for the interview. It looks like XY, of course, he knows that because this is a cross-positions only spawn map, he's just going to go ahead and go for a barracks opener. I have seen him do Command Center first on Akalon Wastes. But yeah. I did just add a contact from NetEase. I'm hoping this will yield some fruitful results, but I don't want to disclose too much more information. I'm not under any official non-disclosure agreements. I didn't sign anything or anything like that. But, I'm just hoping that maybe one day I can find that event in China that's willing to take me. So that's why I'm here. I'm casting the players that I want to know the best. iG.Jim does like his Phoenix Colossi versus Terran, but of course, I think the one reason why he's been deterring or just not really going with that kind of opener, not really going with that kind of play versus XY in this series is simply given the fact that XY is his practice opponent whenever he's playing at home at the Invictus Gaming training house. Of course, I have met some people, or not met, but I have talked to some people who have met Jim. They've done interviews with him, and they've seen him at the training house, and they say whenever he is at the training house, if he's not on the ladder, the only time he isn't playing a game of StarCraft 2 is when he's looking at the replays for it. Like, sometimes he'll actually eat little bits and pieces and morsels of food while actually playing a game. Although I don't know how reliable a statement that is or not. I mean, once you stop and think about it, all these hardcore StarCraft 2 players, like, Scarlet, who has actually beaten Jim before, these players are putting their wrists at risk, if you will. Like, they're facing suffering injuries when they go that hardcore into StarCraft 2. And it's interesting to note that XY actually just took enough gas for one pair of Reapers, and that's it. Oh, of course, not to forget the reactor that it took to get the double Reapers out. I think, a lot of players go for this basically to get the the scouting information, or at least the players in the TESL circuit like to do this. Some of them do, but it changes from season to season. They gotta change up their tactics, because if they're throwing the same thing at their opponent all over again and it just isn't cutting it, then they're gonna have to adapt a new strategy, and softball is definitely no exception to that. But here we go, double Reaper going into the natural, speeding right past that mothership core, not giving a damn, just saying, hey man, I'm gonna scout you, Jim. I'm gonna figure out what you're doing, and you're not gonna fool with me this game. Just a reminder, this is game number 3. I actually didn't watch the CPL tournament as it was happening. I do know that Todd was their English caster, and he actually did face off against Invictus Gaming's Jim at one point. +1 attack going down, I would say dreadfully early for XY, but he's definitely neglected Stim before getting it. And he's just going to throw down a couple more barracks to go straight into a bio transition. And this is understandable, because Jim, if he sees that you're making a mistake, if he sees that you've only got one Marine in your barracks trying to hold your natural, he's just going to take everything that he's got and just throw it straight past you and get straight into your worker line like that and try and kill as many workers as he can with just a Zealot and a Stalker. And I've seen him go as high as 10 or 13 with that versus Drunken Boy in the WCSNA Challenger League. But again, all things considered, I wouldn't be surprised to see Jim just, you know, pull a rabbit out of his hat, not do magic per se. Of course, we all know he's, you know, he's capable of doing magic in a game. He really is. But again, I just don't think we're going to see him do anything that XY would expect him to do versus your everyday Terran on the ladder. Okay, so double tech labs going down here. Getting stem on the first one. Second one I'm thinking is going to be combat shields, if not concussive shells. Concussive shells would not be a bad idea. But the observer goes and sees double bunkers going down. And it looks like we just have Jim maybe kind of backing off for a minute. Just backing away with that observer. Nothing being researched on that second tech lab just yet. I mean, XY's got enough resources to do something with that, but maybe he's just getting it to have the ability to crank out Marauders. Possibly a mistake, but players of this caliber, rarely do they make mistakes. I mean, we're talking XY, who I think he made it into the first Premier League. I'm pretty sure he made it into the first Premier League, but here we go. Jim actually throwing down an early forward pylon. Oh no, and he's moving out too, so I think he's actually getting ready to break XY open right here, right now. Double bunkers. He's got 2 Immortals to deal with that, but you know, I mean, Immortals, they kind of take, I wouldn't say a similar role to Banelings, because they actually, you know, it depends on their DPS. And like when you're talking about DPS with Banelings, you're talking about 4 or 5 of them hitting a bunker at the same time. With an Immortal, you're talking about, you know, maybe a couple, you know, a volley of 2 attacks at a time in this case. And Jim, I think he's not ready to really commit an all-in. But he's definitely going to exploit XY if XY makes a mistake, because he's got his Robo Bay behind this. He's going to try and cause some economic damage, but wait a minute. Oh, that was clever. He actually just moved past that one Marine that was patrolling just now, I think. And now here we go. The Guardian Ship going down. SCV's moving pulled offline. Beautiful force fields. Bunker number 1 falls. Time Warp going down right on top of bunker number 2, and that's going to slow down the SCVs getting to it. Both Immortals still alive. One of them just about to fall, and it does. Jim microing back just a little bit late. And does he kill any workers? Just 1. So right now I think what Jim's goal here is to do is simply contain his opponent, keep him from moving out, keep him from getting that 3rd expansion up. In fact, he actually doesn't have a 3rd base being built, so perhaps XY is actually trying to end this game on 2 base. And he simply doesn't have what it takes just yet. He's going to need a little bit more in the way of Immortals if he could, or excuse me, not Immortals, but Marauders to deal with the Immortals as well as the Stalkers. Back at home, the Robo Bay finishes, but Jim going just a little bit lazy on that. He forgets to get the extended thermal lance. Forge going down in the main, as well as the Twilight Council. +1 armor going down first. That's basically, I think, to negate the +1 attack that we have coming from XY and Jim. Pulling back home, cutting his losses. And XY is going to try and exploit everything that he's seen from Jim so far. He should be taking down this other pylon, but I think it's a misclick that leads to him not doing that. But simultaneously, you see him sending a double medevac drop out. And I believe the Observer caught on to that, because now we have a bunch of units into position here for Jim. Bear in mind, I didn't see the Observer seeing the double medevac drop there. You know, professional casting is actually a 3-man job. I'm just 1 guy at home. So do have mercy on me, as we do see this Observer will catch on to it, and the will the Stalkers move into the proper position? I don't know. This is a very secluded part of the minimap to be looking at. Jim is not even reacting to the double medevacs right there. Now, oh man, he could end up losing a little bit here, but no. Nexus cannon goes down. That means the Marauders and the Marines are just going to target down the Nexus by default. Ooh, and speaking of targeting down, that was a nice little smack there by Jim, taking down one of those medevacs. 3rd base being established for both players right now, just kind of breaking away, trying to take things into a bit of a steadier macro game. But behind this, XY is actually throwing another double medevac drop at Jim, and I don't think Jim is even remotely aware of this. Yes, it helps to move out just a little bit and throw your medevac, throw your double medevac drop out, because that way your opponent, you know, typically they'll have an Observer over here making sure that they can see you moving out. But the other Observer is right here, not in the middle of the map where it could have seen these guys pick up and get inside. Well, here we go. XY, is he going to stem an A move forward? It would certainly be a brilliant idea. I think medevac drop number 2. Yeah, the double medevac drop is actually going to join what's here. Interesting choice. Force fielding that pylon as though these were a bunch of Zerglings. Not quite going to save it, though. Jim does hold his 3rd, however, in the end. Now, I do apologize that I don't really have the usual tone to my casting that I typically do, that you guys are used to from casting VODs and so on and so forth. But right now, as it is, I'm living with my parents for the next 10 days, and then I'm going to create a study abroad. It's part of my university curriculum, if you will. Alright, so XY coming back around with that medevac. Pylon down here, not quite finished. XY did see it though, so he's not going to be able to really... Oh, wait a minute. I was confused for a minute. I actually thought this was Jim's base, but here we go. The SCV is building this here. Oh no, they still don't see the pylon. Now they do. And this could actually result in some double... This could result in some silly... Well, I guess you could say double-pronged attacks, but it would have been silly if it actually happened, but it didn't. So... Sorry guys, it's like 11:30 at night. I'm actually getting a little bit confused here. Okay, so what's going on in the background? We got ground weapons level 2 on the way for Jim. Charge being researched as well. He's got +2 armor. He's trying to get that +2 attack up, and I think he's not doing anything too terribly dangerous right now. Just playing that safe game. Be nice to have High Templar in the mix. Does he? I don't think he has a Twilight Council. Let's check the tech tree. He does. He's got... I'm sorry, he has a Templar Archives. I meant to say Templar Archives. Of course he has a Twilight Council. He's got Charge on the way. And here we go, the big engagement. The Zealots just moving forward so slowly. Beautiful storms are really helping Jim out in this engagement. But overall, XY has a huge supply lead. Lots of Marauders left over, and they're going to stem and 8 forward on anything that they can. The Stalkers being the last line of defense for this single Colossus. It looks like, I don't know, it's a little hard to say who's going to hold here, but it looks like it, in the end, might just be Jim. He's going to lose his last Colossus, but in the end, he holds the ground engagement, which is the most important engagement, as we did see that last Viking fall. 4th base now being established for XY behind this, but Jim's going to shut it down because he does have a pylon here, and he's going to target down that SCV that was building it. Meanwhile, a small line of reinforcements going to deal with that one Marauder, then take down the pylon here, just effectively stopping all reinforcements, and no real harm done to XY except for that delayed 4th base. Pretty sure he's going to turn it into a planetary fortress, and now we have Jim just moving forward into an aggressive mode. He's like, great, I don't have my 4th base started. I need to kill XY now, otherwise I'm dead. And this is the advantage that he has because he is not going for his 4th base. He's actually trying to get his production up, kill his opponent right now, and +3/+3 is on the way, but of course we're going to see +3 attack finish for XY first, unless we see Jim put a lot of Chrono Boost into that. Meanwhile, huge storms coming in, cutting off these reinforcements, and there was a small mistake that XY made, and that was pulling too many reinforcements to deal with that one pylon, and that is going to cost him possibly this game, as we see a supply plummeting to 80-something to Jim's 150-something. There it is, the GG from XY, ladies and gentlemen. I give you Invictus Gaming's Jim Vincible, Jim Credible, Jim whatever have you. Invictus Gaming's Jim. Okay, so I'll see you guys next time. I hope you enjoyed this series that I showed you, and don't forget to show this to your friends and ask them to please subscribe as well.